Brighton, and we are delivering this session with Grace Robson from Boing Boing Foundation.
Yeah, hi, so I'm Grace Robson. I'm a peer youth engagement worker for the Boing Boing Foundation. It's a bit like the CIC, but we're more activism based and co-research based as well.
So this session will focus on co-producing research with communities, and it's organized as part of the Community Solutions for Health Equity project, which is led by the members of the Five Coast Research Collaboration. In this collaboration, we are a group of individuals, people, representatives from several organizations, and we are quite keen to address health inequalities in Blackpool and the Five Coast. And this research project is quite related to that. In this project, we aim to create a research consortium, build capacity in the community to undertake future research to address health inequalities and promote health in this area. So I will talk about a little bit more about this and some activities that we are doing and future workshop opportunities and training packages that we will offer in the future, but later on. For now, let's go with a little bit of overview of today. So we will start with the introductions and we will talk about research. What is research and why it is important. We will talk about this, and we will talk a little bit about research processes as well. And then we will focus on the co-production side of things, what is it and the theory behind it. We will be talking about that, and we will give you some examples in practice, how we co-produce some work together before in Blackpool area on the Five Coast, and then we will share some tips and recommendations and what not to do about some of the issues, etc. And after a break, we will again continue with the co-production information again, and then we will talk more about co-production in research, how we co-produce research with communities. We will focus on that, and we will, then the closing part will follow that. So we introduced ourselves already. Yeah. So if you know what good and bad co-production looks like, and we will try to provide some tips and techniques to get you started and have a successful research co-production experience. But maybe we can start with the research part now. What does research mean to you? And we have some post-its here in front of you and some pens. Would you like to write some keywords, some terms or concepts that springs to your mind when you hear the word research? And I will give you 2 minutes for that. Evidence, yes. Clarifying. Setting aims from benchmarks. Supporting decision making, very important. Clarifying and understanding, they are quite relevant. Would you like to?
Evidence-based. Quantitative and qualitative.
Something regarding the methods, yeah. Okay, so analysis and data. These are related to data collection and design of research. To learn something new, again, clarifying, understanding. These are primary motivations for research, of course.
Improving services, statistics, and involving community.
Yeah. Okay. Supporting decision making, another one is improving services like that. It's an outcome of a research, let's say. What else do we have here? Questioning assumptions in evidence from the field. That's good. Investigating. What else do we have there?
Looking at past research and
seeing where the gaps are.
Seeing where the gaps are.
I
can make it out now.
Yes, very well. To improve people's lives, again, something related to the outcome. The data, looking at data, draw some conclusions, I
Yeah.
guess, yeah. Okay, getting information from different areas, learning from what does and doesn't work, definitely. This is also related to service and practice improvement.
That one's linked to that, learning and progressing.
Yes. What else? Finding answers for a question you have, exploring an area of interest, definitely. Asking questions must be ethical, which is very important, ethics, another ethics here. Making change happen, learning, better understanding.
Again, finding new ways, evidence-based, learning and making a change.
Definitely. Another ethics, discussion.
Researchers investigating to create new knowledge or challenge existing theories / knowledge.
Definitely. And builds new knowledge from previous learning. Affecting positive change, evidence-based, increasing knowledge and understanding. And deep dive into all aspects of the issue being investigated.
I think when I first answered this question, I said copy and paste. It's definitely not correct.
Seems like actually you mentioned all important aspects of research, from the design of it or start of it, you know, getting an idea or developing an idea or finding a research interest or a topic to research, and then going from there. Very basically, research is defined as a detailed study of a subject, especially in order to discover new information or reach a new understanding. And when we are talking about scientific research, actually, especially if you are not in the field of social sciences, it comes to mind that, like, you know, a laboratory with a code, etc., like, you know, the science stuff. But for research, actually, it is a tool, very important tool for change for better, actually, improving the lives of people. And coming from that perspective, actually, research offers lots of benefits. First of all, especially, like, you know, talking about the work of community groups, organizations, I think one thing is very important. It is evidencing success. What you are doing is working or not, knowing that, understanding that. Actually, I had some community groups getting in touch with me just to understand, you know, in a way, explore if what they are doing was helpful or not. You know, that was their primary aim for that. And if everything works right or not, identifying areas to do better is also an important benefit of research. Quite related to that, and connected to, we can also say that, you know, seeing what works and what doesn't work is important for improving practice. It has direct lines to improving practice in that sense, and building evidence-based to support evidence-based practice is important. So knowing what you are doing and knowing that it's working is important for practice. And it doesn't stay there, actually, with this practice of certain organizations or groups, etc. But it also influences policy, makes changes in the policy, or, you know, influence the decision making at the policy level for the policy makers. And it also creates new future investment areas. For instance, I think health inequality is one of the areas which, you know, supported by the previous research that decision makers or like the research councils notice that, you know, it's an important area for investment. Because of that, now we can see lots of calls, you know, grant calls, new funding opportunities for in this kind of in this field of research, and also, of course, commissioning. And very briefly, I'd like to introduce the steps in the research process, and also, you know, what you have been writing here actually summarizes all this in a way. It starts with defining the problem, or, you know, selecting a topic for research. And here you can ask questions like, you know, what do I want to know more about?
Sorry, if I could just add in there, I think that's what, is it okay? Are you fine to take interjections? Sorry.
Yes, you are.
Just to say, Claire, your point there about, I'm really fascinated around that idea of like problem definition, because so often who defines the problem decides where the research then goes and stuff, and a lot of the time maybe the people experiencing the problems are so far away from defining the issues that we then maybe don't focus on the right things or what we think are the right things, but community members then, if they're involved too late, they're not having a chance to define the problem. And for me, I think that's the bit that I agree with what you were saying, that sometimes maybe get it the wrong way around.
I totally agree with you, Sam, because I think one of my roles is about connecting researchers to community organisations. So it's communities through voluntary community, social enterprise things. And one of the challenges we have is researchers often come to us when they already have a research question. They've often already pulled a grant application together with methodologies and things, and at that point they're saying, what community organisations have you got that we can work with? Equally, community organisations, I think, often don't have the capacity, because they're too busy doing the day-to-day firefighting.
Sure.
They don't have the knowledge necessarily, but they are doing research, they do data collection, they do analysis, they do evaluation every day, and I think it's almost trying to bring the two together in a much more meaningful way, and I have to absolutely agree with you, it's that very first area where co-production is probably lacking more than ones further down. I think a lot of projects do excellent co-production in maybe less meaningful ways, but further down the line of that process. But it's the top level, I think, that we certainly struggle with.
And just to add to that though, because what I'm quite interested in is, there is, like you say, there's a lot of research out there. The Arts Council is investing loads. I mean, dare I say, creative people and places, there's millions of valuation. We're talking millions and millions. So there is the evidence, but it's then how do you get it to influence policy and say, public health does give money to Old Electric and the Grand Theatre to deliver wellbeing programmes. We haven't cracked that at all.
It's joining the dots again.
So.
Different ways.
Sorry.
Very important. No, thank you. It's very welcome. You're very welcome to, jump in and I mean, having the first-hand experience of a problem is really important for, building that research around that. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And what you are saying is quite important as well, especially for ethics applications, for the, this academic research, into forms of academic research. So we need to, for many PhD students as well, by the way, that's the issue, because we want to do co-production, we want to start co-production from the beginning of our research project or idea, from the first step here, but we are not allowed to do so ethically in a way, because for ethics application, actually you need to go to them with a research design, for instance, already established hypotheses or research questions, etc. So in order to, go around it, we try to do this way. Okay, we try to define the problem as loose as it could be, very generic, very broad, and we don't say much about research design, etc. And we try to say, this will be decided with our co-researchers, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we need some form of new established way of ethics application for this. We need to develop new ways of doing co-productive research,
Just one other quick thing as well, it's not, I don't think it's just the ethics and the necessarily research culture, it's the funding. Because, for example, the National Institute of Health Research, which is the one that funds collaboration I'm with, they are changing, they are trying to do more grants which are about developing partnerships and developing collaborations, but in the past it was always, they had the funding for the big pots of money to do research, and the amount they gave, and I couldn't believe this, for relationship development, they had this thing, and when I looked online, it was £300, and they will, at the moment, I know someone's applying for a £5 million project, and you give them £300 to develop the relationships, and it's like, I think things like, now as I say, things are changing. The NHR have had another grant application out which was about developing collaborations, and it's not about research, it's about developing collaborations. So I think things are changing, but I think it's partly about the research culture, the funding culture and all of it, to get, let's say, that top line, the start of the process right. So there's a lot of challenges.
Yes, it is. But I think it is really promising that now many funding bodies are asking for patient and public involvement. It's the requirement for grant applications actually, which is brilliant. But again, you know, having funding to, you know, get your application to that stage, you need money for that as well, you know, to collaborate with people, you know, pay for their time, to, yeah, for your core researchers. It's also a problem, so yeah, many challenges around that. Yeah, so, and after defining the problem, you go with a review of the literature, as you also suggested here, evidence-based, you know, familiarize yourself with existing research on this topic. And then this is the selection of research design, formulating hypotheses and carrying out the research. This is related to all these methodologies and everything. And then you need to interpret the results. This could include data analysis, etc. And then you report the research findings. What is the significance that is important? You know, how do they relate to previous findings, but how they are useful? You need to, you know, think about that as well. And actually, you know, I think this is at the end, but it also, you know, this process starts from defining the problem, because we are trying to offer some solutions to certain problems as well. So our interpretations or reporting, or like, you know, the research findings should address these issues and come up with, for instance, we can produce some suggestions or recommendations for policy change or practice, etc. using this. And then it says repeat, but this could be, I mean, repetition of the research process itself with a new problem. It could be related to the previous topic, it could be something new. Your results may suggest a new idea, you know, to explore, so it goes on like this in a circle. Yeah. We will not, in this presentation, today's workshop, we will not focus on this, you know, this process per se, but we will have upcoming workshops as part of this project, and they will focus on the research design, qualitative methods, quantitative methods, etc., health economics, you know, topics around that. So if you're interested, then you may learn more about this in, you know, upcoming workshops.
Okay, so when you hear the word co-production, what springs to mind? So I just want you to think about that, and on the post-it notes again, just write a few words. Power dynamics, we'll be looking at power a bit later on. Equality, again, equality in decision making. Shared values, difficult to achieve properly. So yeah, we'll be having a look at the challenges to co-production as well. Compromise and listening to others.
Partnerships, again, being equal, around being equal, and open and honest collaboration, it's also important, some values.
Co-production is everyone who is impacted by a problem having an equal chance to find the solutions. So again, that's that equality side. Equal payment for time. Skills and knowledge. I was about to say swills or something. Valuing and acknowledging everyone's expertise. Yeah.
That's great.
Collaborative working. Again, partnerships.
Oh, we have some warnings here. Good. So, consultation is not co-production. Avoid tokenism. That's also very good.
We'll be looking at that as well. Getting to hear the voices of people who might not traditionally be involved in decision making. And a form of direct democracy if citizens are meaningfully involved.
working together to solve issues and improve the quality of life.
Everyone is equal, working with each other to work towards one common goal, sharing power, community members, bettering people's lives and lived experience. Insight, lived experience, real world research and reliabilities.
Doing it with people, not for people.
Making the most of the combined resources we have. Different meaning in different circles. For example, theatre different to social sources? Services.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I see reflection, lived experience and balancing power over this side. Equity, yeah, working with a range of people coming from different expertise. Another warning, no lip service. Ensuring voices are heard and commitment from all parties.
Involving communities in creating developing projects and programs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff we'll actually be looking at in the workshop too. So yeah, I think
You know a lot about co-production, even more than us, really. So I put some definitions in front of you. You will see the photocopies for that. Would you like to also, go over these and maybe underline the words, keywords that you find quite important?
Have you got any more copies?
Yeah, there.
Or would you like us to share that?
No, we have plenty.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thanks.
So we should work together then a bit of teamwork. You might even want to work with me.
Yes, please. Thanks.
Yeah, that's me.
See, there's a bit more parity means it's treated equally. So if there's not parity of esteem, so you say like mental health has parity of esteem with physical health, it means that they're both treated with the same seriousness. So if you said there's
I think for that second one, for me, I underlined something together which could not be discovered or achieved individually, because you have to have sort of skin in the game, don't you? You have to have a reason for doing it. If you feel that you're just engaging in a partnership, you've been told to engage in partnership, or there's some funding, or there's something or other, then you don't really take that value through everything else that you do in that partnership. And the outcome has to be bigger than what you can achieve on your own.
I underlined after that it's equally shared regardless of perceived status.
Yeah.
And I think that status thing is really important, because I've been in a lot of meetings where there's been unequal power. So you're getting people's stories, you're getting people's shared experiences and things, and then somebody goes, yeah, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
So those people have shared loads of stuff, and it's kind of wasted and a little bit, I just want to put no lip service, because there's been a lot of consultation that has been badged as co-production.
I think I'd really like to have that conversation, because I obviously sat within the council, and certainly, in consultation, you can see with Plymouth, the trees.
Yes.
Council planning did consultation, so they could tick the box. Yeah. So, and I think that's the thing, if they're saying it's co-production when it's not, that's really obviously. But then, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. On the other side, it's also it's how do you then empower the citizens, the community, to then say, well, why can't you do it? When they say you can't do it like this, it's why can't they do it? You know.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's giving them that power to, and that takes a lot of confidence, doesn't it? Doesn't it, for somebody to be able to do that?
When we opened, so we've been here 5 years, and when we first started, we did a lot of consultation with the local residents, and they had been over consulted and nothing had happened. So they completely switched off.
Yeah.
And a great example was they were supposed to be building a park on the back here, and they came in and they had they got people in to deliver the consultation workshops, got lots and lots of great feedback, came up with the designs, tweaked them, and then it didn't happen because they then decided to build houses. And not only did it not happen, they then took all the play equipment out of the local park and put balance beams, because it doesn't cost any money if you're balancing on a tree and you take out moving parts. If you take out a swing in a play area or a zip wire, you're saving yourself money because there's no moving parts, there's no maintenance cost. So they put little, waste of time, nobody wants them, hideous. And now they're coming to the point where this housing development will be finished and they're kind of thinking, oh yeah, we need a park now. And they've not come back yet, and I'm pushing them. And the ones are simple, we've been through these ones, we've done it. Why?
We've got a green strategy for the council that says the well-being or whatever of trees and parks. So we've got a strategy.
But the people in that department, not fit for purpose at the time, moved on, and there's still no way of, there will be.
But also, it's interesting you said, because there were reasons, there are, and it's that honesty. I suppose it's also how honest the corporate people can be as well with the community.
And hiding.
Because there is an issue about there's no money for maintenance. That is an issue, that's a real reality.
Yeah.
But it's how. So it's just how you have that.
Well,
dialogue.
There is, but there's a housing.
I'm just
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we've tried to have these conversations on behalf of the community, and they feel cheated, they feel let down. They started building 231 houses, and there's a black path that connects them all to school that they have to walk down, which last night it would have been flooded, so the kids walk to school and they have to take a change of socks. So the girls have to change of knickers because it splashes up and they get wet under the skirt. And there's no money coming from that housing development to make that path good. And so when you're on, I'm speaking from coming from on the ground. And I was in Parliament last week. There was a cross-party inquiry about the need to end food banks. And actually, it wasn't about the need to end food banks, it was about the much bigger picture. And you can go to these things and they can take notice, but then, I gave an example of a mum on this estate, and it's like, how do we unravel? Problems are so big, and they feel like they've been over-consulted, and nothing happens, and that is where we're at.
I think that's the point with research as well, because a lot of the time research on short-term contracts.
Yes.
So much as they often would have the will to continue to work with the people working with them, to disseminate everything and to feed it back and to actually implement stuff, you have to pay the mortgage, you have to pay the bills. So if you know your contract's coming to an end in a month or 2 months, you're going to go off and find somewhere, and then you have exactly the same problem, but they just feel like everything's been.
And it's about that shared understanding of what needs to change, isn't it? And the timescales around that. That if people are working on a 1-year project or even a 3 or 4 year project or a governmental term, then those priorities are going to be really different from actually long term. Looking at in 10 years' time, we're going to need another 2,000 houses. So therefore, responding to the immediate needs does seem to be a focus in this area particularly, to be crisis managing or to do the thing that is right in front of you instead of looking at the strategic needs
It's
of the
firefighting.
place.
It's firefighting all of the time.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm just going to give you an example. So tomorrow I'm physically taking a lady to housing options. So she's in overcrowded housing. She's got a 13-year-old boy who needs a CAMHS appointment. And the CAMHS appointment was cancelled 20 minutes before she went to the appointment, having waited ages for this appointment. So the 13-year-old boy's kicking off, needs a diagnosis, shares a bedroom with his 10-year-old sister who's going through puberty, and a 4-year-old kid who is copying the older one's behaviour issues. The mum is that stressed that 3 teeth fell out last week because she was grinding the teeth that much. She's on tablets for anxiety and depression. So that mum, I physically took her to the dentist. I only got in at the dentist because I have a great relationship with the practice manager, and said, please, I'm bringing her down now. She needs all the teeth taken out. She's 28. She's in overcrowded housing. And until we did a spider's web of all these issues. Until we sort that overcrowding housing out, nothing, and she can't think about even getting involved in anything that we're doing here because her life is just such a mess. And it's, you know, people who are living through these times and are suffering real hardship, all the basics have to change first before, and you know, the services are just a mess.
Yeah, it sounds
You know, and for that lady to go to that CAMS appointment, her partner had to take time off work, which he works at Symbols on the production line, for him to actually get the morning off, he had to jump through loads of hoops, and then he had to go in and say, I'm sorry. And she said to me, Kath, if I'd have cancelled that appointment 20 minutes before, I would have been knocked off the list, I said to the bottom. And until he gets that CAMS and sorts that problem out, school will not treat him. So he got kicked out of the lesson in year 7, and they stuck him in with year 11s who were revising for the GCSEs. One gets a phone call, he's disrupted a class of year 11s revising. Why the hell did he stick him in with a class of year 11s? So until that child gets the statement that he needs from CAMS, school will not treat him differently because he's not got... Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and they give up, and she's one of the most feistiest kids on the estate, and she said, Kath, I'm giving up. What is the point? And you agree with them. So, you know, if by co-production we can help situations like that, but
I think though it's that thing about then changing the policy.
It's changing the policy.
It's got to
It's
happen.
housing,
Otherwise
it's
they go,
health.
why?
It's housing, it's health, it's dentistry, it's...
But we as a council
everything.
did that prospectus about 5 years ago about what national policies needed to change for housing to help Blackpool.
I'm
So,
sorry to...
again, it's not my area.
Sorry, I know
it's
we're
not
going
my,
on.
it's not my area of work, but
Sorry.
what I mean is we've done the research on that. We've got the
Yes, it's there,
evidence.
isn't it?
Yeah.
We needed government to change that
Yes,
policy
definitely.
on, but yeah.
It's a really frustrating situation really there, what was happening there, but yeah, and it's sometimes what we are doing can be more harmful when we cannot, you know, fulfill the promises that we are making, the assumptions really,
And that's
with
really
co-production
careful,
without
isn't it?
taking the, you know, opinions and like, you know, producing all this information for some change, and when nothing has happened, when you say nothing has happened, actually it's not that. Something is happening, something
it's
wrong
not-
is happening.
Yes,
there.
it's not been
Like, you know,
implemented properly.
creating this distrust.
Yeah.
For instance, and that is even more harmful in a way, So thanks for sharing these examples, I really appreciate, but mindful of time.
Sorry.
And Sam, you would like to say something, but maybe you can combine it with our, next slide, our Blackpool way of co-production.
Okay, so this is a definition of co-production, the Blackpool way. And Sam, I don't know if you were involved in this definition.
It was Nathan, but
Nathan,
worked under
okay.
Nathan when he'd obviously sort of like coined that definition, and it's just an active one that we use across the team now, and as you say. If I could just make my point, because it was linked to this a little bit, and just talking about the different experiences there that people have had and so on, and I guess sort of that's why across the team and stuff, because there's that sort of tension there whereby, you know, nobody owns co-production, it's an approach, it's a way of working, you know, it can be based on projects, it can be tasked, you know, there's lots of different ways that co-production can be sort of like implemented and looked at. But I guess the reason that sort of we try and like get that balance between not looking like we're the gatekeepers of co-production and we're the only people doing it, but just trying to sort of promote sort of that one of our big things from our workshops that we do and in our communities of practice is just saying that if it's not called co-production, that's okay. Not everybody is going to be able to do co-production, and that's fine, but just don't call it co-production then. And I guess the points that you were just making there about, you know, if we call it co-production and then people have a really negative experience and actually it wasn't co-production, they leave that experience thinking that co-production is this really negative thing and stuff, and it might just be that it was consultation and they weren't consulted very well, or, you know, it was, you know, dare I say it, tokenism, and, you know, people have said, oh, it's co-production. So one of the reasons that we try and sort of like just support people to just be honest about what it is, it's not to be protective over, oh, it's because we're the only people doing it. Lots of other people are doing it, there's national examples and so on, but it's just that if you don't call it what it is, you don't allow for like characteristics to emerge, and you can't evaluate it effectively. If everybody's doing co-production when it's not, how can you look at what co-production done well looks like, and what was it that made it work, and what was it that made it maybe a bit of a challenging experience for people? So that's why we're a little bit more like, come on, just don't call it co-production if it's not, because you want it to be able to.
It's difficult though when people, especially independent organisations, are asked to do that co-production.
As part of funding and stuff,
but
yeah.
they're also asked to be dynamic, as in like you need to change on the spot.
Yeah.
So you're doing something that is like heading towards co-production, and then you are faced with a hurdle that you need to say, okay, so there are limitations now, and that's when people get disappointed. So I think again it's one of those higher level things, but I honestly believe that the co-production term comes more from being a requirement of some tick boxing.
But it's interesting how it's,
And none of the organisations, no organisation ever wants to disappoint their service user, especially when it comes to, I mean, it's reputation, isn't it? So I think it's difficult when there are terms like co-production that are kind of thrown around. So maybe it's, I don't know, just saying what you can do and what you can't.
Yeah, we will be looking at like the challenges and the struggles as well, and like tips to success of co-production as well. So I'll just read, thank you for that, I'll just read out this definition. An approach where a range of experts, including experts by experience, work together as equals towards a shared goal through shared learning, shared power and shared responsibility. So if just like think about that whilst we like go through the workshop as well, and how does it resonate to you? We'll have discussion, but I think
we don't have time for it now, but we are running over. But later on, keep this in mind. Let's see.
Okay, so this is a co-pro model, and it's divided into 4 sections. So there's 2 for, with and by. So 2 is something that's done to us and it's without us. So this is what we call the traditional medical model. So for example, like your doctor's appointment, you go to the doctors and with a problem, maybe they'll take like your blood pressure or something. So it's something that's done to us. We have 4, so it's done for us, without us, and that's a charity model. So when something is done for us but without us, so the charity model. So for example, the food bank, they provide and deliver food to neighbours in need. We also have by, so that's a community model. It's done by us and it's for us. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Neighbourhood Watch Network, but that's a community model. So they quote, our mission is to support and enable individuals and communities to be connected, active and safe, which increases well-being and minimises crime. So they're enabling, community-focused, inclusive, proactive, trusted and collaborative. And what we like to do is the co-production model. So it's something that's done with us. During lockdown, we actually produced a wellbeing and resilience guide called Remit. So it was done by a group of young people, parents and carers, practitioners and professionals. We shared power, skills and experience. So it was for people on the waiting list for like CAM services. So that was an example of kind of co-production. There was kind of like, struggles along the way, but it was a great success. So we'll go through that later. Okay.
So actually we talk about these key concepts related to co-production practice but I will just overview them here. Like, you know, it's focused on problem solving, sharing decisions and sharing power as well. It is collaborative, it's a collaborative process. It is asset-based, focusing on the strengths and building on them, those. Creation is important here, you know, there should be an outcome or output, you know, at the end of co-production and activities. Let's say this could be a policy, this could be a resource, this could be a blog, etc. But, you know, tangible creation in the end would be ideal. And lived experience has a very important role in all co-production activities. We call them experts by experience needs. And yeah, it says person-centered, but I think it's also related to community as well, you know, or where you are coming from, you are bringing that perspective to the table as well. And there are some, of course, misconceptions like, you know, oh, it's always a positive experience or the outcome will be what we want, and in the end, no, it's not the case. We all know that now, you know, all these, you know, experiences shared here as well. It's not an easy process at all. You know, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes the effort, lots of, yeah, and sometimes emotional burden comes with it too. And there is no one way of doing things right. You know, there will be many perspectives, many ways of doing things, so decision making, but doing that, you know, without power imbalance and sharing the responsibility for that is important. And directive, it's not that someone is telling us what to do, we need to do that decision making collaboratively in a way. And I will just very briefly why co-production. I want to, you know, focus on that. But you are already aware of this, you know. So our approach to health, well-being, and resilience is about beating the odds as individuals. Yes, but it is not enough. You know, as long as we have the, for instance, social inequalities, you know, or broken systems, we have these broken systems in place. Whatever we are doing as individuals, or to individuals, or with individuals, will not be enough unless we address those as inequalities or the adversities present in the system. Tackling those. So we are saying that beating the odds, yes, but we also need to change the odds. And co-production is a powerful tool for that, bringing academic experts or other professionals and communities together for a social change. And this is an example of co-production. So this is how this represents how parents and carers, for instance, can initiate and execute projects working collaboratively with practitioners and decision makers in Blackpool. So a group of parent carers called Blackpool Families Rock, and with some practitioners as well, that initiative. They worked with social and healthcare workforces that support families in Blackpool. And to ensure that the voices of parents and carers are heard in service development, and they came up with this a new approach to working with children and families in Blackpool. The heart had, it is wrong, hand model. So this model is now embedded in children's social care practice in Blackpool, and they also co-produced some value-based questions for the recruitment interviews for social workers, new social workers, and they already helped children's social care to make important policy changes and practical changes, and they added new criteria to practice audits, for instance, and they helped reviewing and writing the guidance documents too. And we will have a break. Just 50 minutes delay, 15 minutes delay, but yeah, we will continue. Or what not to co-product work, etc. So, and there are some theory behind it as well. And Grace will introduce you one of these.
Yeah, okay, so this is the Hart's ladder of participation. You might have seen it before, this might be your first time. So it shows the different approaches and practices that organisations can take involving the service users in decision making. So this is designed for young people, but it can be used with different groups and communities. There's 8 levels or rungs on the ladder, and it shows an active increase in involvement. So level 1 at the bottom manipulation. That would be the lowest in terms of service users having little influence on decisions. To level 8, showcasing true involvement. So rung 1, 2 and 3 is non-participation, so we don't really want to aim for this. 1 is manipulation, and the activities would be adult-led. Youth would do as directed without understanding the purpose of what they're involved in. Rung 2, so decoration. Young people are used as a decoration, and the young people understand the purpose but have no input in how they are planned. In the middle, well, it's not really the middle, but somewhere there. We have tokenism, so young people may be consulted with minimal opportunities for feedback. So moving up the ladder to number 4 is assigned, but they're informed. So young people are given tasks by adults, and they're informed and they are given a role in the group. Then we have consulted and informed. So they are adult-led activities in which youth are informed about how their input will be used. What we ideally want to aim for is 6 to 8. So number 6, the adults initiate and they share the decisions with young people. Number 7, so young people then initiate and direct activities, but with little input from the adults. And then at the top, which we would really, really like to aim for, the projects and activities are initiated by young people or the community, and the decisions are then shared with adults, and they are working as equal partners. I thought there was like a little... No.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, as Grace mentioned, yeah, this is written for or developed for young people participation or corporate using work with young people, but you can, adapt this for, research projects too, or with patient service users or parents, carers, etc. Or lived experts by experience, etc. So would you like to comment on this? Because this is actually what we have been talking about, these tick box exercises that we need to avoid, and we also told you gave this brilliant example of how it can be non-participation, it can be harmful, and it needs to be avoided as well. But if you don't have any comments, I can just...
I'd say the only thing that comes back to that point that I made, and Sam said as well about the young people initiated, that is obviously like the top rung, as you say, that you should be aiming for, but I do think it's the hardest because, yours like young people, as you say, for the community, whatever, people have to have the confidence, the power, and the knowledge to be able to actually initiate things, and I think that's, and again, like I say, when people are just suffering within their own lives.
They have to have a mechanism.
Exactly, there has to be a process to do it.
I always say this place is fantastic because everybody and anybody comes in here, both professional and community. But we don't have this all over Blackpool. No. And we can, we're helping the people of Grange Park. There's amazing things happening. And we can get to those people, we can even get to the hard to reach people because we know who they are and where they are. But it's that mechanism of getting, you can't just go cold calling or knock on somebody's door and say, we want to tackle this problem, how do we go about it kind of thing, because they'll close the door in your face. But it's having that mechanism to be able to do that in the first place, isn't it? And unless you've got a group of young people that, so you could go to the boathouse and say, right, we want to tackle this inequality, or you'll tell us what your biggest problem is. That's great, you've got a forum to do that.
And I think that this is one of the problems I'm trying to tackle. So in the art, which is this collaboration of lots and lots of different things, we supposedly have mechanisms. There's this thing called pitch an idea, where anybody can come and pitch an idea for a research project in the art. In reality, you're drowned by paperwork in it, and as I think I've actually said, genuinely, how many research projects have come from that, and the answer pretty much is zero. Because, like I say, people either don't know it's there, don't know how to use it, even if they do engage with it, it's squashed by other things. So I think that top rung is really hard to achieve. Like the initiation coming from, you know, community, young people, whichever, you know.
But that also mirrors, in terms of creativity and arts, so Blackpool at the moment is a priority place with the Arts Council. That means they want to really invest in projects, particularly from local creatives, local communities, but surprise, surprise, they've not got the capacity or the understanding to even start writing very detailed bid to meet all the strategic, you know, priorities of the Arts Council. And then the Arts Council was saying to me, why are we not getting I've talked to lots of people and they've got really interesting ideas, but then we never see them again.
So actually, I agree with you both, and then I assume that our priority should be creating these spaces that we can co-produce together, really, with communities, community members. And one of the aims of this project, this specific project, is creating, or let's say, imagining a community hub, like here at Grange, like, you know, if that could be used, you know, that those places can be, you know, created and used as a model to address health inequalities in, you know, communities, in coastal communities especially. So, it's brilliant. And this is quite relevant to the challenges to co-production, so because of that I just made
and for me, once you've created somewhere where people, you know, can come, then that's where the magic starts to happen. I just nipped out there in the break to get a tissue, and I was asked for a food parcel by an old man who never asked for anything, but he's got a problem with the benefits, they've messed the benefits up, never asked, he's totally embarrassed to ask. But where would he go to ask for a food, you know, where would he go if this place wasn't here? He'd just starve until those benefits came through next week. You know, and another lady who wanted to do something really positive on the back of something really negative, she just asked, and there were like major issues. So there's a lady on the estate that's having to have her leg amputated because it's infected, and she said, can I get a card and come with the right messages? And then you kind of come back in here and sit and think, hang on a minute, that lady's going to be impacted, she's going to need a house adapting, so BCH are going to have to get involved, and they've only just found out this morning that that's happening. So this is where this place comes into its own, because then there'll be conversations with BCH about adapting the house, and and then in the meantime people will go and do a shopping for her. So, and that was just going out and getting a tissue, and that's 2 cases like that.
I think it's exactly what it's about, creating a space, because I don't think you can necessarily formalise those conversations and processes, but I think it's creating the space so they can happen.
And so those networks, or wider networks, and that wider happening, you know, because when she comes out of hospital, she's not going to be able to do any shopping, and you know, you can ring adult social services, but then if there's other networks of support that can be on the ground and not having to wait, you know what it's like, it's cutting through, it's having somewhere that can cut through all the crap and, right, okay, what is needed on the ground now that we can, you know, I mean, we're having an artist in residence, we're working with Left Coast, we've just appointed this week. She's not going to come in with any preconception, she's going to come in, talk to the community, do some workshops, find out, you know, and from, you know, there might be one spark that leads her in another direction, completely different to what she thought she was coming in to do, and that's going to be community-led, and it has to be at that, you know, even at that level, it's got to be come in and talk to them. And
but as you say, you've got space to do that.
Got
Here,
space
you've actually
to
got the
but what about
like, mechanism, but other
the
places
people,
don't exactly.
you know, Talbot and Brunswick that's really suffering, that, you know.
So we have certain challenges that we face in co-production, like time, power, or power imbalance, or costs, or infrastructure problems. But it's also an issue of how we are doing things, why we are doing this, also what co-production is really. All comes to this point at some way. Would you like to start any of these? Yeah. Or again?
I think two things that always stand out to me is power and cost, and these are just things that I personally think about. But like power in terms of like co-production itself, I often wonder if it's ever like true co-production. So I'm a young person, so for example, we always talk about like young people taking the lead, so I often wonder, say if I have an idea, but then that's my idea, but I'm like sharing it with like everyone here. So in terms of the power, I kind of always feel like there is someone that has more power than everyone else. So that's one thing that I'm always think is a challenge. Cost as well. So a lot of people say like paying people for the time as well. When we did, I mentioned before, Remit, during lockdown, I actually weren't working for the Bung Bung Foundation at the time. I feel fine sharing this with everyone. I was doing therapy at the time, like youth therapy, and they mentioned working on the co-production team, and so I was actually volunteering, but I felt I didn't want to be paid, like I weren't bothered about pay, because, well, it was like during lockdown as well, so I felt just like happy to be part of something. So I think there's like that two different things about like being paid and whether someone wants to be paid or not. And there's also cost, like paying for the venue, again paying for people's time, and the resources as well. Time as well, whether or not you're working towards a deadline, can you move that deadline, or can that not change? You have to like the time has to be within the deadline, and that kind of links in with something that we'll look at, like accessibility as well. Those are just three things that stand out to me, so I don't know if you want to talk more.
About the power part, because it's also related to, I mean, it's such a difficult concept, isn't it? Because it is also having an authority, maybe status is part of it, lots of dynamics going on there, and it is really difficult to, disentangle it in a way, to say something about it. Currently, I'm supporting a group in Turkey. They are, for the first time, second time, I did the first co-production work there, co-production study there with a community of LGBT organization, but now they are trying this again with families in a deprived area of Turkey. And what we have been trying to do was addressing the hierarchies, the social hierarchies, because they have professors in that team and they don't listen. And what we were doing was actually addressing those professors, to get low key, calm down, because they can be quite directive as well. They were trying to lead everything. Stop there, don't do that in a way. What we were trying to do, negotiate actually, we were trying to negotiate the power dynamics there, for them to keep it lower in a way. And in Turkey, it's quite hierarchical as well. Cultural things also, cultural factors also play a role there. So we had this term hoca. Hoca is how you refer to professors or academics in Turkey. So people cannot lose that term. You have to say that in a way. So we said, then you will call each other hoca, regardless of status, regardless of degrees or diplomas, whatever on the walls. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Everyone will call each other hocam. So they are doing that, at least for now. It's working in a way, and As I observed that young people are less experienced researchers, let's say, they feel more empowered with this kind of, small manipulations of the, hierarchies, or like, challenges to the hierarchy. Yeah. Would you like to share anything about all these challenges, or like, some tips that you would like to share with the, group?
Yeah, I think the thing, I think it's really, you kind of triggered my old job in my head here. I think it's really important as well that to understand that the people who maybe are perceived as having the power might be struggling with understanding just exactly how the co-production works, because it's not necessarily something that they've ever had to work with, and they'll have worked their way up the hierarchy to a point where it's become who they are and what they are, and it's quite difficult to break that down again to be able to understand it. So I've experienced people getting really angry in meetings on both sides, because it's just really difficult for everybody to understand each other's points of view, and everybody's trying really hard, but the frustration gets a lot. So it's keeping everybody informed about everything that's going on. It's a massive challenge. Yeah. But I think it's about having the we always talk about ridiculous things. Me and Kate were all talking about J.K. Rowling and all the trans stuff and stuff, but saying how things need to be a debate, not an argument. And I think it's very much what it is here, isn't it, what you're saying about the Hodja thing? It's about having that conversation between equals and everybody understanding that everybody's kind of struggling with what's going on. So, yeah, the power thing's real.
I agree with you, and I think engaging with the nuances of that is really important, because I've started to hear things about like, people saying, oh, there's no hierarchy, or we're all equals. It's like, well, but by saying that, it oversimplifies why there are hierarchies at times and stuff, and actually engaging with those conversations more about why there's sort of a structure, and like, oh, we're all co-leaders and we're all this and all that, and it's like, well, that's not something you can say that, but for community members to actually feel that, it's quite different. Do you know what I mean? So by coining those things, like, oh, we're all equals, and it's like, well, we're not, so do away with that and actually explore why is it we're not all equals, and what does that mean, and sort of.
And I think people being honest about where they might be struggling with it as well, because it is a massive challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you do, I'm so sorry, what did you do in that kind of like, situation where everyone was arguing, or like, having form of debate, but, not reaching an agreement? What did you,
I can only talk about it from a personal perspective, and I'm quite good at going, I really don't understand. Please, somebody tell me if I don't get it. I'm quite personally quite straight and go, I'm really struggling with this. Help me, because I can't do it. Doing that with the people that we were consulting with or co-producing with, but also doing it with my peers, my colleagues as well afterwards, going, I'm getting this wrong, we don't know. Help me, because it's hard and a real struggle. But I think once you admit that you don't know, you start to know a little bit more, you can start to learn better. And I think that's particularly in something like the council, people work in the council, but it is so hierarchical.
Academia is very hierarchical.
Yeah, and decisions take such a long time to be okayed and to be ratified, and they've got to go to this level, to this level, to this level, and people are in meetings and they're busy and they don't have time to read their emails. And you as somebody who's saying that we'd like this to happen, you want it to happen. You don't want it to wait 6 months till there's a council meeting that says that you can maybe discuss it at the next council meeting to make a decision about whether they're allowed to do that in that particular meeting, or does it need to go to that committee, or should so-and-so who's on long-term sick leave have had oversight of that. And
but that can also be used as a way of dispatching things away.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't.
But it can be.
Don't get me started on the hierarchy of the council.
For anyone that's interested,
Gender bias in terms of the people that make the decisions at the top also.
Yeah.
But
But
it's
affecting the whole town centre, the
Yeah.
whole look and feel of the town centre.
So I know you want to come in. I just wondered, just really quickly, just before you make your point, if anyone's more interested in like power and stuff like that, and I don't claim to be an expert on it, so please don't come to me with lots of questions. But like, other
You've
people,
always got the
but other people in the room might like, know a bit more about it. But there's the Gaventa Power Cube is like a really good way, isn't it? Have you ever come across the Power Cube and like a way of being able to like understand power and how it manifests and stuff like that? So have you? Yeah, you're nodding your head really. You probably might know a bit more about it than me, but I just touched on it a little bit. What I would say is if you go on the website, if you just search Gaventa Power Cube, there's Geventa Power Cube, or Geventa, is it Geventa?
Is that the
Actually,
person?
Power Cube.
Oh, okay. So Gaventa's like the person who
Who
created it,
the
yeah.
concept,
And the Power Cube is like sort of, and it talks about like institutional power and how it's used and stuff like that. And I just thought, just in terms of talking about hierarchies, bureaucracy and stuff like that, that you might find it interesting to go away and I would really like to do a community of practice on it one day when I know a little bit more. But and just while I've got the floor really quickly, sorry, if I could invite you all, would it be okay if I sent the details of our next communities of practice to Bouquet to share with everyone? Because you've had some great perspectives on co-production and stuff today, and I know that you've got Kerry and Carrie that come from Showtown and things like that, and you've been rude, haven't you, to the last one and stuff like that. We'd really like to keep growing. Sorry, that's a shameless plug.
No,
of the
that
community
was
of
so
practice.
good. And actually, we have a slide about that. So, I mean,
Oh, okay,
like,
sorry.
future opportunities, like, workshops, etc. I would already invited you, to share some,
Thank you, sorry.
I was just going to say the power and the empowering as well, and where the kind of meet the frustrations of working with the council. I worked on Mearside, which is another social housing estate in Blackpool a few years ago, and we really empowered the community, and they were doing great changes. And we came to a situation where we couldn't do something because the hierarchy. We couldn't get to ask permission to do something that we really wanted to do. We'd work with an artist and we just said, you know what, let's just do it. Let's not ask permission, because we were so frustrated with the system, and we just did it. And the impact was amazing. And it wasn't, we went directly to the illuminations, and we'd worked with an artist and they'd done this 2 fantastic animations, and we projected them onto the windmill as you're walking, as you drive into Blackpool, and it was during the illuminations, and that was quite a traffic stop, and we thought, oh my God, we hope we're not going to cause a car crash on Preston New Road, and we did.
Assessment camp.
It was up for a fortnight, but Richard Williams said, no, sod it, we'll just come.
Well, but that's the other thing though, with power, and then there's roles, but then there's, for me, everything's about people. Okay, so people come to you probably here, okay, you're in a role, but you're a certain kind of person. So you talk about Richard Williams, he doesn't follow council procedures. So that's a good thing. That's not a good thing, but that's also a good thing. It can be a good thing.
It's that you've empowered people, but then there's the power that, and it's getting that balance, isn't it? Where you want people to be vocal, and then you're kind of blocked at the top. So where's that balancing? Where's that middle ground where everybody can come together and work together to achieve it without, having to send 10,000 emails and not get through to one person. So my motto is just do it. And somebody said to me, it was the woman from Incredible Edible, they're not going to put, the prisons are full, aren't they?
It's like really, I don't know, sensitive issue, isn't it? Like, being assertive, taking lead, etc. Would it be, mixed with some power imbalance as well? Like, there are many things to unpack there, but maybe I would find helpful to have regular meetings, or like, having this on the agenda, like, addressing these power issues, or not maybe call it power issues, but maybe like, what can we do better for the group, like, for you to express yourself even better, like, something like that. Yeah, bringing this issue up every now and then, like, and I'm so sorry for interrupting you before. Would you like to say that?
I was just going to say that I've seen co-production work at its best when status is eliminated and strength is appreciated. So, for example, you will have people from the community who have totally different experiences than you and will know more about those experiences than you ever will. But if your role then as a facilitator means that that group can get the best and they kind of be more productive because of that, then that's your strength, and their strength is to tell you about those experiences so that you can kind of move forward. I think there's always going to be people in the room that are used to leading and that are used to speaking because they've sat in rooms like this one and they know kind of how to get some results, and that's a strength but shouldn't be a status.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Very good.
I've written that down, I really like that status is eliminated, those strengths are appreciated. It's really copyright.
Everyone, I mean, all of us have lots of social identities. It can be related to our gender, sexuality, you know, immigration status, or like, you know, ethnicity, religion, etc. I think in this kind of situations, you know, when working co-productively, we need to leave all these identities behind and, you know, embrace the identity, this new identity that we share with our team members, like, you know, peers there. Yeah, we become peers there, really, because we share this one single identity, Project X, whatever it is, like, you know. Then having that identity and acting on that, of course we are bringing our own experience, skills and strengths to that platform, yes, but yeah, finding ourselves with that, like, you know, identifying ourselves with that singular, like, you know, shared identity would help with the that kind of situations, like, you know, when
and in that way, no kind of co-production should ever look the same, because hopefully you'll have different people in there co-producing each time, so there'll always be a slightly different approach and slightly different dynamics.
But I don't think you should be dumbing down. I mean, I respect and I think there should be experts, but it's how they share that knowledge and expertise as opposed to using it as a power tool. I think we need experts.
Yeah, definitely.
We absolutely, but it's just how that.
And some people do think that co-production means like getting rid of that expertise, or that it's less important, but it's not. It's not. You know, we wouldn't have it that, you know, as you say, expertise is really important, definitely.
I suppose that comes down to the communication of it really as well, doesn't it, from the start, how you communicate.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, then let's move on. So, I have a small activity for you now, and I would like to ask you to, you know, make groups of 3 or 4, and use these blank pages on a table, one of the pages for that. This is a line drawing experience, and I would ask you to take turns to add one line on your page, you know, for 30 seconds. Don't think about it, just add one line, you know, when it's your turn. And you have the pens there, you know.
Sorry, what are we
Just, it's just a single line. Yeah, take your turn. Draw a line. That's all. Don't think much about it. Just draw a line for 30 seconds, or let's say 10 seconds, however. Yeah.
We'll work with you, Claire.
On one page, share one page,
the
and take your turns.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Is that
you like to start? Thank you.
Bunch of, you know, another one's editions.
Joining up, we had some not joining up, we had some doing our own patterns.
I noticed Claire said, do you feel like you should draw
Do
something squiggly or different? So I thought that was, why did you think that?
I don't know, just is it being interesting or being, I don't know.
Or being in your unique voice. Okay, so did your line change the direction of the drawing, for instance?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So how did it feel to share the drawing in this way?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, some people had thinner pens and some had thicker. So, how did it make you feel in a way, having a thicker or thinner pen? Did you notice that? Is it visible? Yeah, they like
I was celebrating the diversity.
Were they equally visible to you? Yeah, we thought of this activity to talk about, a little bit, again, about color in a way, because we are coming with our own colors, our own voices, and sometimes, it is easy to neglect or see the lines drawn by a thinner pen. Yeah, the thicker pens can be more sharp or visible in a way. So, and also this is a collaborative work, but we still had some desire to keep our difference in a way. So this will happen in certain groups, co-production group as well. Yeah, everyone will bring their own perspective of color, etc., own voice.
I went first, and when everyone had been, I wanted to go again. I didn't, because it was like, oh no, I want to make that like this now, so I'm a bit bossy. I didn't, no.
We just kept going.
You kept going.
You did.
I did
And
feel
how
like
did
I
you
wanted a
stop
complete picture
yourself?
at the end. That was.
Because I thought that was the rules. I thought that was what I was trying to be good.
Okay. So actually we didn't have any rules,
No.
it was just for drawing the line, yeah. But yeah, I think we are bringing those rules, or maybe in a, I don't know, sense of social contract, because we are doing the same thing, with other people, yeah. So the short exercise for this, just explore these concepts. Okay then. Yeah.
Key ingredients to success. So, effective co-production is underpinned by the 4 key principles, which are critical values for putting co-production into action. So there's equality, I know we've had a big discussion around that, diversity and inclusion, accessibility and reciprocity. So equality, everyone's equal. I know we kind of had a bit of a talk around whether people are equal. Everyone has assets to bring to the process. Everyone shares power and they work together. Then diversity and inclusion. So this can be challenging, but it's important that co-production projects are proactive about diversity. It's important to engage the key decision makers and that there is clear communication within the group, and making sure everyone is valued and included. Accessibility, so when and where are you holding the sessions? It's about ensuring that everyone has the same opportunity to take part in an activity fully, in a way that suits them back. It's not only about the physical access, but ensuring that any information is also accessible, so that it's provided in the appropriate formats. So for example, I mentioned time before. Is the time suitable for everyone? Does that need to be moved around? Is the language that's used understood? So it's important to be adaptable and flexible about that, so it suits everyone. Reciprocity. So that's making sure that people receive something back for putting something in. It helps people to feel needed and valued for the time and effort. So it could be something little as like, so today we're having lunch, or I don't know, maybe a trip. Just thinking outside the box, but yeah, so it's about that value and appreciating people's time and effort. Yeah, so being honest as well, Ruth, you mentioned that before. Being committed to it as well. Yeah, clear communication, being creative. Yeah, so that's just a few things towards success.
So we talked about so far, like, you know, about research itself, about co-production itself, and what about co-production in research. So it refers to a collaborative and interactive process where academic researchers and non-academic partners, such as community members, etc., you can see a huge list here, like, you know, long list of potential co-researchers. They come together and work on a research project. Usually it is needed by the community themselves, like, you know, the topic should be relevant to their needs. Co-production provides a synthesis of academic knowledge as well as the expertise of experience of non-academic partners. And therefore involving individuals with stake in the project actually who are not researchers can enhance the quality of the research itself. Further, co-production involves conducting research with communities rather than on communities, and this is an important aspect of co-production, as we talked before, because it's not just producing academic knowledge, but it is for community development and sustainable change. So therefore, co-productive research helps bring positive change for society. And we talked about this research process and the steps in research process, and co-production can take place throughout a research project, but you know, I mean, it can start from identifying the problem, which is the ideal, you know, starting from step 1 to the end of it. But sometimes, you know, there are occasions that collaboration can happen in other steps, like, you know, and the design of it, or later maybe during collecting data, or maybe even later, like, you know, interpreting the results and communication of key findings, and then involvement in knowledge exchange and further steps. But the ideal is, of course, you know, doing all of these together.
Can I just, I know it sounds really shame, can I do a shameless plug? We've got an event which is sort of relevant to this, and everyone's very welcome to come, and if I share it with you, it's okay. So what we've done, and Neil was a bit of a guinea pig for this, we're working with a company called Made by Mortals. I don't know if anyone knows Made by Mortals. They're like an immersive health wellbeing theatre company. They are more based in Blackpool, and it's all about what are the barriers to communities, setting the priorities for research. So it's basically a 2.5-hour online workshop where they're going to use some of their techniques and things, they're facilitating it and communicating it. And it's all about looking at how we can solve those barriers to community, setting the priorities. So it's all about how can communities come in right at the start. Yeah. So it's on the 18th of April in the afternoon. I know people's diaries are already filling up. But if I share it with you,
yes,
all great, it's free online. So yes, I will. There's my plug.
Who's behind it?
So it's through ourselves at the Arc. So I run a community. Who was in Made by Mortals? So Made by Mortals, and it's the lead woman, Paul Hine, who's one of the. If you look at Made by Mortals, they are, like I say, we're facilitating it through the Arc, through things, but then we can Paul Hine through Made by Mortals. If you look down what they do, a lot of sort of immersive theatre techniques for doing health and wellbeing stuff. Worked with a lot of people. But anyway, I'll send it to Cheverly.
I have a very good example, a quick example. I will try to be brief about this. So this is a infographic. I had to divide it into two so that you can see it actually. But this was co-produced by young people, practitioners, and some school staff as well, as far as I know. Maybe some you know better about this actually.
No, it was Nathan that was working. It was Nathan and Sarah and that team that were working on the schools exclusion stuff.
So as part of the Resilience Revolution Blackpool Head Start program, actually, we were working co-productively with lots of stakeholders, different stakeholders, and young people came up with this idea because school exclusion is a prominent problem in Blackpool. Yeah. Yes, so they wanted to address this, and they wanted to do something about this. So from the start, they were involved in this. So and they used some data sets to do a quick research, a complex data set to see what are the factors associated with higher likelihood of school exclusions. So they prepared this infographic based on the results of that research. So they show that, for instance, compared to national average, Blackpool has a more higher proportion of excluded pupils. And they show that, there are certain groups of pupils that are more likely to get school exclusions, like boys, like pupils around 12, 13 years of age, or some ethnic minority groups, or pupils on free school meals. So they did everything, like, identifying problem to, data analysis, and this was one of their outputs. And actually this started another research project, which I am working on it right now, with a young person, with a PhD student from Blackpool, and a school teacher, and a teacher. So we are trying to explore the role of Resilience Evolution program in hopefully reducing school exclusions in Blackpool over time. So we are researching that, and for that, for instance, the young person and the teacher did interviews, qualitative interviews for that. So it wasn't just like, us academic researchers going there, collecting data. No, we were doing this all together. And it was a, quite good opportunity for them to develop their research skills as well. So yeah, this was just an example of, how you can do a co-productive research.
So these are just a few things to think about when starting a co-production group. So what's the purpose of co-production? So is it to have a more successful outcome, to develop skills and promote well-being? So reaching out, engaging with the community members, they can share their skills and they're experts by experience. Also that sharing of knowledge, exploring the roles within the group. So this provides a clear avenue for participation, and everyone has different assets that they can share. And then we have establishing aims and goals and the shared language. So setting team goals helps everyone to be on the same page, and it increases productivity. So that's just like a few things.
So we have future workshops and opportunities. We already started talking about this, but yeah, so this project, Community Solutions for Health Equality, so we will continue having some other capacity building workshops. So this was the first one, but in the future we will have, for instance, a session about evidencing findings through quantitative methods, or there will be something, a session about health economics, measuring impact, etc. So I just got the time confirmations for this, but I can't remember now. But after the session, I can just write them down, or I can send an email. Christoph and I can send an email about this with the workshops that you mentioned as well, adding the information as well. So I mean, there will be co-production groups as well as part of this this project running in parallel. So one of them is integrating provision in the future the Grange. So we were thinking about exploring opportunities for having community hubs as such, as the Grange, and it's about seeing if we can use this as a model to address health inequalities in Blackpool and on the Five Coast. And there is another one, cross-sector partnership fundamentals. It's about collaboration, working together, crossing those barriers, challenging those barriers, and building a research consortium is the ultimate goal of this project. So having a research agenda that reflects the needs of the community in Blackpool or on the Five Coast, etc. So so getting ready for future research to address health inequalities overall. That is the main aim of this But there are other opportunities for co-production, like Black Collectivist Alliance and Activists in Residence, and Grace is part of those. So
Yeah, so,
maybe she can say something about that.
Thank you. The Blackpool Activist Alliance is a project in collaboration with Blackpool and community organisers. So we're working with young activists and their allies to explore how we can make a difference through activism and community organising. So last year we held some workshops and activities where we share skills and knowledge, which equips us all to take steps towards a positive change on the things that we care about. So Bung Bung Foundation is kind of new at the moment, so we are working on the Activist Alliance again, and we're looking at creating new workshops, so keep an eye out for those. The Activist in Residence, so that's an opportunity for young people in Blackpool to work with what we call a host organisation, and that can support them to develop and deliver an activist campaign. So the Bung Bung Foundation, so we have already had, I think it's 4 activists in residence. So for example, 2 people from Highforlong School, they didn't like how people were treating them on the bus, so we linked them up with Phil from the Grand Theatre, and they made a video that's being played on the buses to like challenge that, and I think they also made some cards so people can wear around them. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Nice.
Yeah, so it just helps like people to look out for that and be more like reasonable, and yeah, so there's been 4 already which are on the Bung Bung website, but we hope to open that up again. Yeah, so Bung Bung is all activism based on the Bung Bung Foundation, so yeah, we're working with more of the community and organisers as well, and looking at co-research alongside
Are you talking to Kerry Payton about climate action?
Pardon?
Are you talking to Kerry at all, like climate action?
Henry is.
Yeah, I'm not.
Because that might be a good one as well for activists to work with Kerry. I mean, Kerry's pretty young anyway.
Yes.
I was thinking about all the green stuff and
So it's just because again, I like Boing Boing and the old Head Start like that.
Yeah, no, I just think that'd be a good one.
So yeah, Grace's colleague Henry is like doing a lot of work around like climate and stuff. So he's linked in with Scott and Kerry and acting.
I was thinking about young activists.
Yeah, we did.
We've got Gemma involved in the Blackpool Youth Climate Group as well and things like that. So yeah, it's links being made there.
We did have a young person, Maya, who did do some stuff with climate change, and she was also an activist in residence, so we could be looking at that again.
Yeah, she did that at the hospital and supported Blackpool teaching hospitals to develop their plan around green energy.
We'd be interested in the Grundy Art Gallery because to be a host.
Yeah.
That's a link for you then. That's a link for you then, isn't it?
So we've got a new learning engagement officer starting, so it'd be great for her to meet you and talk about that.
That's a link for you to take back to Henry then, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
How do they decide where she go, you know, where they go?
So
I'm just thinking, like, have they been to Boathouse Youth and spoken to the...
So there is
I'm so sorry. Can I suggest having this conversation over the lunch? Because
Don't go in, just...
about the things that we have discussed today and introducing you this new project that we are doing. We just started, etc. Community Solutions for Health Equity. So we will organize more sessions to build capacity and research skills in the community, and who would undertake research to tackle health inequalities and promote health equity in a way. So for this, we are thinking about, what kind of training would be needed, and we would like to ask you, if you have any ideas, can you write those down, again posted, so we can take that into account as well while planning future sessions of this, and I will give you 2 minutes for that.
Can I just ask, one thing is about, obviously this is a Blackpool and South Coast based thing like that, because we work across the North West Coast, and there's a lot of other organisations that are really interested in this training, so I'm not suggesting you go and deliver it all over, but can you share the slides? I mean,
Yeah,
things like,
yeah.
I was asked by someone in Sefton, later workshop, she talked about being really valuable for...
And we plan to record all these sessions so that we can share the recordings of that. Yeah. And while you write your ideas, I'd like to ask if you have any questions. Do you feel more closer to these aims and goals that we talked in the beginning, like having a better understanding of the benefits of research and co-production, or understanding the principles of co-production? Do you feel closer to, or do you have any questions about any of these? If you have any, then we can. Are you happy with it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's good to me.
So, what are you writing? I missed that one.
So we are thinking about future training. What kind of training would be needed to get our communities here research ready, let's say, to undertake future research co-productively, so that we can address health inequalities and promote healthier life in Blackpool and on the South Coast, and better services now.
On that, rather than, I wouldn't call it training, it would be good to have some sharing
Yeah.
from the arts cultural sector of some of the projects. There's a huge amount of knowledge and experience for Celine and team. There is in Mel, there is, and it would be great to just,
I think
it doesn't
definitely
have to be
around
long in
creative
depth, but
arts and
just...
culture. 'Cause I think this is something where, I'll be honest, like I said, I come from more, it's your side of the table last time, but I come from all that background, and I think it's something personally, I think where health research is a little bit on the back foot, they're very much suddenly about creative and participatory approaches, and actually something that arts and heritage and culture have been doing forever.
Yeah, that was it.
Brilliant.
It's my mistake, by the way. Throughout this project, we want to use creative methods as well. It's another aim of this project.
Yeah,
in
so
general.
I just
Yes,
want
yeah,
to
definitely.
I don't know,
It fits
especially
very well
on
with
sharing good practice from
Yeah.
my
And
cultural sectors.
when we have these co-production groups, actually, we are hoping that these kind of individuals or representatives in a way, they will be present there, to share their knowledge and experience too. Yeah.
I think from my perspective, trying to connect with the health and well-being sector, it just comes back to that crisis management and problem-solving approach. And actually, where the arts and culture and creativity and heritage have got a huge amount to offer is in a preventative area. And there is already a lot of evidence and research around that, but it's about the mechanisms of then engaging in the connections for that to happen on a grander scale, particularly in that. So I put those two things as sort of, to answer your question around training, and whatever form that takes, whether that's about sharing, but also in terms of the power and the hierarchies, how do you get around those tables to actually have those conversations in the first place? And
is there any
that's a sort of specifics to do with this area. It's the how, it's the mechanics, it's the where are those conversations taking place. That if I don't feel I'm part of them, then how there's some of the communities that I'm trying to serve are able to feel part
there is
of
now,
them.
I don't know if you know, as part of the sort of Lancashire and South Cumbria ICB, the CFSE Alliance. So Tracy Hopkins, she's one of the chairs of that, along with
that commissioner
as well. So it isn't. It's obviously the whole point of the integrated care partnerships is it's everyone coming together, but in reality, like I said, the commissioning is actually
it's understanding each other's language.
Exactly.
But also
so there is a BCFC Alliance, which, like I said, Tracy sits.
We don't know what these letters mean.
Yeah,
This
it's a
is
bit like, so we can have an arts
I
group
used to
in
hear
there.
and then start talking jargon.
Yeah.
So the new integrated care partnership, which came into effect, is all about the healthcare. So it's not just the NHS or private; it's everything coming together, including all community organisations which do so much. As you're saying.
Apologies again for interruption. but we are over the time allocated for us. So I would invite you to lunch to share all this. And you will see on the slides we put some additional resources, references, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.